TV.com. You'll see I'm not alone in the studio anymore. Joining me today is Choctaw Princess Cadence Nickey. She is here because it is time for the 73rd Annual Choctaw Indian Fair, which is taking place July 12th through the 15th, and it's always a good time. So welcome, Princess Cadence.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here in person and to talk about the fair, which we talk about every year. But how excited is everybody that it's here again? It's time for the Choctaw Indian Fair.
Yes, everybody back home is so excited. I think the most part that they're excited for is the stickball games.
Okay, so we try to wrap our brains around it, and I tell every year you have to go see it to witness it to sort of get it. But how do you explain stickball to those who may have never played the game before?
So stickball is like a sport that is kind of all sorts of sports combined into one, like hockey, soccer, football, all these sports combined into one. And the history of the game is that my ancestors used stickball as a way to settle disputes amongst other tribes and things that they were having arguments about. They would play stickball to kind of not go into war, to cause less casualties. But even back then, there were some people who actually were killed during the game.
It's not that exciting anymore.
It's not.
But it's still highly competitive. So how long are folks practicing for the stickball tournament? And then when will it, I guess, is kicked off the right terms to use? Okay.
So people started practicing probably back around February. Is when a lot of people start practicing. And then now, people's been practicing almost every day for the past maybe month. And it'll actually start on Wednesday, July 5th, so pretty soon.
So how can we come out and at least see that specifically, Princess Cadence?
So you can come down to our reservation, which is on Choctaw, Mississippi. And the games are actually played on our football stadium at Choctaw Central High School. And from July 5th up until July 11th, it is all free. You're not paying anything, but once the fair starts, you have to pay to get in.
That's starting July the 12th.
Yes.
What do they win? What is it? Just bragging rights if you win the stickball tournament, or is it how does that work if you win?
For the most part, yeah, it's mainly bragging rights, but you do win a traditional drum for your team and all of that. Right now for the men's division, they've won for 4 consecutive years, so they're trying to go for a 5th year. So right now, that's the talk amongst our people, seeing if they can do it.
If they can do it. I feel like it's like the Olympics. Rhino and I talk about all the time. The Olympics comes around. You need that one lane or that one team that's just like the regular folk that don't know what's going on, and throw them in there to sort of see just how hard something, truly is. Because I feel like, and we've watched videos and things of it here, and we've also heard you just don't get how athletic these athletes are to play stickball until you're witnessing it in person or sort of trying. Have you ever tried it?
Yes, actually this past year I just started playing, and it is a lot harder than it seems.
Well, and I think that's cool, and that's cool too that this is the time of year you can get out and sort of witness that. This is also the time of year, sadly, you will be turning over your crown or as princess and to the next one. So the princess pageant is a big part of the Choctaw Indian Fair. So when does that take place? When do you officially say goodbye or close out your reign?
So the pageant is always on the first night of the fair, which is going to be July 12th this year. So maybe around, I would say 9:30-ish is around the time that the crowning actually happens. So around that time is when I'll be giving up my crown. But the pageant usually starts at 7.
Starts at 7. Okay, let's talk about that pageant. I have a lot of queens and princesses who come through here, but none that's as cool or I think as culturally relevant as your pageant is to your people. So give us a little background about the pageant.
So when I was in the pageant, and it's kind of going to be like this year, we have a personal interview that happens the day before the pageant. And then on pageant night, there's your personal presentation. Then you have an onstage question and a dress review. So all of that goes into how your points get calculated, and they have tabulators there that count up the scores, and I guess the person with the highest score is who becomes the princess.
So over the last year, what have you been doing as you've been reigning as Princess Cadence?
So the past year, it started off kind of slow, but I've been able to go to a lot of public schools to give presentations about our culture, especially during Native American Heritage Month. That was probably the biggest one. So I went to around Mississippi and Tennessee. Then within our tribe in Neshoba County and places like that, I've attended ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. And like now I'm on my media tour, so I've been doing a lot of traveling. And last month I went to the Gathering of Nations powwow, which is in New Mexico. And I got to watch the powwows, and they have a Miss Indian World pageant. And we had 2 former princesses that competed in there. So I got to watch that too.
Well, will you get to compete in that? Is that part of your, or is that like another sort of sector of pageantry within?
Yeah, that's like within a whole lot of Native Americans around the world. But I've gotten a lot of encouragement to do it. I'm not sure if I want to do it. I'm still in the waters right now.
Well, we encourage whatever makes you happy, Princess Cadence, because you still got a few more days or weeks in your reign as the Choctaw Princess here in Mississippi. When you get to go and visit with the high schools, what are some of your favorite things to share about your culture to maybe those who haven't ever seen life on the reservation?
So what I really like to talk about is our language and, of course, our social dancing, because to me, those are the 2 biggest things that have impacted me in my life growing up. Like my grandmother, she was about 90 years old before she passed away, and she only spoke Choctaw. She didn't know English or anything. So growing up, I had to learn my language in order to be able to communicate with her. So that was a way that I got to learn my language. And our social dancing, like my mom, she would get me and my brother in the living room and make us practice. So, and then once fair time came around, like we were ready to dance. And she would always dress us up in our full regalia and make sure she was like, you have to do this right, you have to do that right. So growing up, I feel like my mom was a big impact in making me make sure that I know my heritage and my traditions. So I like to talk about that to the younger people, especially when I go to our Choctaw tribal school systems, because I wanted to show the kids of my generation and of my tribe that it's okay to have confidence in our culture because it's unique.
Absolutely, and it's what will keep bringing, living it on, as well as encouraging other people to better understand and to know that it can be. You don't have to be the same culture to be united. We can all have those differences. With the dancing, when is that integrated into the fair? Because I feel like is it an opening? There's somewhere where your social dancing is integrated for the last 73 years in the Choctaw Indian Fair.
Yes, so the social dancing, it goes on all throughout the fair. During the days, there's various dance groups that come and perform. And like tradition, it's a tradition back then. The Choctaw Indian Fair used to be called the Green Corn Festival, and our ancestors used it as a way, we didn't have cell phones back then. So they would all come at this place to gather, and this was their way of socializing, and they would perform our social dances.
So is it group dancing, or is it like 2 dancing, or is it single dancing, or is it kind of all depending on what you're doing?
It's more so it kind of depends what kind of dances you're performing. Some dances require you and a partner, but some is like a group. So it just depends which dance you're performing.
What is your favorite?
My favorite is probably the Stealing Partners dance. I know it sounds funny in a way, it is. But
sounds like musical chairs, kind of, but with people and their partners. How does that work?
So the guys always lead first. They're in the front, and then the girls are in the back. And it's just a big group. And then once the chanter hits a certain note, that's your cue. Well, usually the man goes and picks out a woman. So back then, this was a way of, we had different clans. So the men would go and pick their women. And then sometimes another man would come and steal your woman. It's a funny way to explain it, but once you're actually dancing it, and now it's just fun.
It's just fun, yeah. And then to the music too. I mean, it takes it down a notch if someone's going to come steal your girl when there's a good beat going on. But I can only imagine, maybe what the atmosphere was sort of like. And these are the kind of things that you get to witness and see and enjoy when you get out and participate in the 73rd Choctaw Indian Fair, which we've got more with Choctaw Princess Cadence. Nickey coming up.com. You'll see I have Choctaw Princess Cadence Nickey in the house with us today. She's here to celebrate the 73rd Choctaw Indian Fair, which is taking place July 12th through the 15th. And Princess Cadence, if we've never been, what's the best directions to get someone to the Choctaw Indian Fair? How do you tell folks to get there?
So, of course, Google Maps. I'm just kidding.
I like it. Back in 73 years ago, they wouldn't have been able to do that. But today's princess is like, you go to Google. I love it.
Just kidding. But actually, the Choctaw Indian Fair is just located right down where our Pearl River Resort casinos are. So it's just down the road, and I would say that's what you would look for. And there's even shuttles that transport people from our casino to the fairgrounds, just in case, like if you're lodging there, because of course both casinos have hotel rooms and our Dancing Rabbit Resort. So they have shuttles going in and out from those places to bring them to the fair.
You think about in terms of tourism and what that's done for the Choctaw in general. So supporting the fair every year, even if this is your first time to go or your 73rd time to go, it's so important for your people, for us to come in and sort of support. So what does it mean to the Choctaw every year that we come out and support the fair?
It really means everything, especially this past year. It has let me see that a lot of people, this may be their first time, and just seeing them wanting to learn more about our culture, it meant everything to me, because it just showed me that there are people out there willing to learn.
Willing to learn and taste and see and all the things. You mentioned your favorite fair food. It's going to be what? Or is what? What can we get there in terms of food?
So you can get an Indian taco, which I really recommend. I don't know, that's just one of my favorite things and my go-tos.
The bread or the taco part's different, correct? What's special about it?
So the women of our tribe, they usually were cookers and stuff. So like my mom, it's flour. She uses flour and milk and then gets oil and then fries it in there. So we call it a fry bread. And not really a biscuit, but something of that nature. And they just put the taco meat on it, and you can dress it however you like.
Sounds delicious. You also have got very talented artists there that I know will be selling everything or have on display, from y'all's cultural basket weaving to even beadwork. How is that intertwined into your culture?
So our culture, well, back then the baskets, they were used to transport crops and everything like that, vegetables. They put them in the baskets, and also like when they would grow corn, some of them used the baskets as shifters to take off like the things that would be stuck on there. And then the purse baskets, of course, like me now, I use it as a regular purse. I have everything in there, and it's really been it's beautiful. I've seen my uncle make the baskets by hand, and what he does is he goes out to swamps to collect these canes and brings them back home, and he strips them into tiny pieces and colors them, makes up his own pattern, and then just starts weaving them together. And like my basket for the pageant and the one for my farewell walk, he's made his own patterns, and they're just beautiful.
They're just beautiful. And then they become heirlooms, right?
Yes.
Like that's something that you pass down and you have a story to tell. You're also working hard to learn beadwork of your tradition, to also for your farewell walk, which will be on the 12th when the new princess is crowned. What was beadwork meant to your tribe?
So they used them for jewelry purposes, and back then some people were awarded these beadwork, like the warriors. Some of them would get awarded with things for things they did, and also like our dresses today. Back then they used to make them from flour sacks. So that's how the women would make their dresses, and the style is like a European style. They got inspiration from them. So actually what our dresses mean is these diamonds, they represent the eastern diamondback rattlesnake because the rattlesnakes protected their crops. So that's what they from rodents and stuff like that. And then the lines around the diamonds signify my ancestors' way of life. They created the path for us. So we remember them that way.
I love that. And then your beautiful beadwork as well as your headpiece. What's the significance behind it?
So my beadwork, I got it because my late brother, his favorite color was green. And also my community colors are green and yellow. So I really wanted to represent my community in the princess pageant. And, you know, I like to think that this was a plan for me by God. So actually the crown was made by someone from my community too. So she used our community colors. And yeah, I'm just happy I got to bring the crown back to our community.
It's absolutely beautiful. And then you have a feather in the back. Is that a specific, from what animal?
Yes, that's an eagle feather. So Native Americans are the only people in America who can have the eagle feather. And it's really a lot because you have to have a permit and all of that to have it. But each princess is donated an eagle feather from one of our tribal members.
Do you get to keep it?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, well, is there anything else you get to keep? Because I know, like with crown, you get to keep the crown?
Yes.
Okay.
Each princess gets a new crown each year.
So it's not like it keeps getting sort of passed down and sort of around. Okay. I'm happy for you now. I was like, you just got to give it all back, and it's so pretty. Your farewell walk, what will that mean for you as you sort of wrap up your year as Princess Cadence?
So as long as I've grown up watching the princess pageants, the farewell walk has always been a part where, like, it brings tears to people's eyes, especially if, like, you, as a little girl, you look up to these princesses. And I'm sure, like, the former princess, when I talk to her, she's like, be ready to cry because it's bittersweet, and it's like saying goodbye and closing a chapter of your life that you've always wanted. And yeah, I think that's what I'm going to be feeling because, like I said, from a little girl, this is something you've always wanted. And just being able to accomplish that goal, it like means a lot.
And you put your life on hold for your reign as princess there for the Choctaw Princess. You were a student at Mississippi State. You didn't stop school, but you transitioned to community college. Are you looking forward to maybe getting back on track with your studies?
Yes.
Not back on track, just back to state, I should say. You didn't stop going to school, but.
Yeah, it's shocking to say, but I miss school. I miss campus life and everything. But, you know, even though I had to put my life on hold, I wouldn't trade it for the world because the little kids of my tribe, they've just made this past year an amazing experience.
And what are you going to school for? So what does the next few years for Princess Cadence look like?
I went to school for forensics, so I'm hoping to finish and get my degree for that.
Well, I think that's a pretty cool degree to do. And then lastly, about the fair, where do we see the lineup specifically in terms of entertainment? What else do you want us to know about the fair?
So our lineups this year is Jeremy Camp on Thursday night and Brett Michaels with Firehouse on Friday night, and Saturday is Chase Rice. And if you want to see more, you can go to ChoctawIndianFair.com, or we have Choctaw Indian Fair on Facebook. So you can see you can register for competitions, like I said, the cornhole, volleyball, res run, and golf tournament, stuff like that. You can see on ChoctawIndianFair.com.
And if you've never been to the Choctaw Indian Fair, you should come because why?
I would say what I really encourage everyone to come to the fair for is the stickball games, especially championship games. Those are the best ones to watch.
And you said it's not just for tribal members. If you feel like you can hang, you can come out there and give it a whirl.
Yes, I really encourage a lot of people to come try. It's a good sport to play, and it's a lot of fun when you're actually playing.
And to earn an Indian taco.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, I need to know what an Indian. So what's your favorite thing to put on top of your taco?
I'm a real basic one. I just like the meat and cheese.
Nothing wrong with that. If it ain't broke, definitely don't fix it at all. But I do think that folks need to take time, learn about the culture that's right here in our own state. The Mississippi Choctaw Indians, they have a wonderful background of bead making and basket weaving and the stickball and the food and just everything else. I think it's super cool. And I appreciate your time. I would say congratulations, but also good luck in the next chapter of your life. I think you're going to be up to some good things.
Thank you.
All right, y'all stick with us. We got more for you coming up.